A very good morning, everybody. This is the first day. There is the mic on. Okay, so this is the second day of our presentations. And today, in the morning session, semester 1 students will make presentations on the literatures of the neoclassicals. Let us have a look at the topics on which they are going to make presentations today. Let me share a screen. Okay, so we will have first one by HIRAL on Pink versus Pamela, Unveiling Modern Feminine Strength, followed by HARDI's presentation on From Belinda's Hair to Draupadi's Disrobing, comparing the rape motif in the Rape of the Lock and in the Mahabharata. Third one will be by DHATRI on the evolution of women's rights, contrasting Pamela and present time. BHUMIBA's presentation on Stockholm syndrome and how it's presented in literature and movies. AAKASH will make it on importance of being satirist, Alexander Pope and the neoclassical age. Rahul's will be on the reception of the Rape of the Lock in 18th century versus modern interpretations. Here you will have to put these keywords in capital. Reception R capital, modern interpretations M and I capital, century C capital. All the keywords should be capitalized as informed yesterday. KAVITA on Pamela versus Shamela. There is no need to put dot after verses. JAGRUTI's presentation on Robert Burns, the national poet of Scotland. DARSHAN will make it on Pamela's contemporary Odyssey, a journey through today's world. CHHAYA will read on Ode on the death of a favorite cat drowned in a tub of goldfishes. You need to make all this capitals. Title should be capitalized. Keywords in the title should be capital letters. You have put all small alphabets in there. Last one in the morning session will be by Akshay, and that will be on ink and irony, Alexander Pope's satirical strokes. Okay. So let us start with the first presentation today. HIRAL, you can start.
Pink versus Pamela, Unveiling Modern Feminine Strength. So let's get started. So here is some personal information about me. Sorry, am I audible? So here are some points to ponder, which I'm going to deal further. So here are some information about Samuel Richardson and Anirudh Roy Chaudhary, who is a director of movie Pink. So genre and style of Pamela, which is a first novel of Samuel Richardson, and the genre and style of the Pink movie, which is a crime, drama and thriller. Famous work of Samuel Richardson, which is Pamela or Virtue Rewarded, and Anirudh Roy Chaudhary, Pink, and Anathen, which is awarded also, published and released 1740 of Pamela, and September 16 2016 of Pink. Here are some common spirit of Pamela and Pink. So I'm starting with like ethics of no, and that's my main motive to give this presentation. That Pamela and the main characters of the Pink movie, three girls like Meena Larora and the other two are the same, having the same ethics of this, ethics of the no. Say the no word, that she. Pamela is abused by her master again and again, Mr. B. So the same situation in the movie Pink, that they three girls are abused by the another three boys, that they are very rich. So the same ethics in the both of the work, in the Pink movie and the Pamela also. So the no fear of background, Pamela, uh, Pamela, uh, Pamela's background are very common, and she belongs from a very common family. And in the Pink movie also, they three girls are also belong from the very common family, but they rebel. The another boys and the another master, they all are belonging from the higher class. So they do not feel fearness. They don't have fearness in the um, rebellion nature. So the third one is social situation. They don't care about that, what the people say. That in the current situation, we think that we do this, what people say. That these three girls and the Pamela don't think about it. So the fourth one is defensive nature. The three girls and Pamela also have the defensive nature. The fifth one is courageous actions. So the Pamela also have that courage to fight back, and the three another one also three another girls also have the courageous courageousness in their actions. So differences between Pink and Pamela. Pink focused in present pretension, ego, and sense of male superiority and squid ideas of perfect womanhood make it complicated and intriguing, disputing, and disbringing. But we have seen this happening around us in life. So the Pink movie is very much related about our present life, and the Pamela are much similar to our today's life. So the another one is Pink features a diverse cast of characters, and including three young women who are central character and focused on their relationship with three men. And Pamela primarily revolves around the character of Pamela Andrews and her interaction with her master, Mr. B. So the three girls like Meena Larora and the another her two friends are also abused by the three men, and the Pamela also abused by her master also. So that same situation indicates that in the every century, women's are like women's situation are very similar and very same, that not any more or many changes in the society. So the Pink is a legal drama and courtroom thriller that revolves around legal case involving, and the Pamela, in contrast of novel, the falls in the category of early English literature. So the Pamela indicates the early English literature and earlier time, and the Pink indicates our present time. So we know that the both of the situation. So it's we know that they both of the situation are differences, but the situation of women are very similar. Pink is a Bollywood film released in 2016. Medium of allows Pink the use visual dialogue and music controversy, while Pamela is epistolary novel written by Samuel Richardson and published in 1740. Pamela relies solely in written text. So we know that Pamela is a letter exchanging the and the novel, but the pink are the movie which is based on today's woman situation. So my conclusion is that both the Pink and Pamela shared themes of the ethics of no, which I'm deal earlier, and fearlessness in the face of background, the impact of social situation, characters' defensive nature, and courageous actions. Pink is a contemporary Bollywood legal drama addressing consent and justice, while Pamela provides a historical context exploring these themes in 18th century English society through the story of maid servant. Both work illuminate complex aspects of human behavior, societal norms, and the pursuit of justice, each in its unique medium of historical settings. So here are some resources, and thank you. If you have any question, you can feel free to ask me.
Hiral, my question is, according to you, which character you like most and why?
According to me, I like most the Meenal Arora's character, because at the end of the Pamela, we know that Pamela marry with her master Mr. B. So and the Meenal Arora, which is belong from the very common family, but she did not kneel down against her defensive boys, barabar? So they don't feel that what people said, that if they are rich, she doesn't care about that he is a richer or many other things. So according to me, Meenal Arora is the character which I like the most. See if any question.
Hiral, I have a question that in the end of the movie Pink, the male characters are punished, but in today's time, money often saves the rich people. What are your thoughts about this situation?
So according to me, the my thinking about the this movie and the Pamela is that money, if the person is belong from a rich family or higher class, that doesn't matter. If you are if you are if you are like right, if you are right on your thoughts, and if you are right in your actions, so you don't doesn't care about that what the other one against you. So according to me, it's the right ending according the today's time, according to me also, that at the end of the movie, boys are punished by the legal norms, but in today's situation we can't find that much legal justice. So here are some I'm going to end. Hello everyone, good morning. Today's my topic is From Belinda's Hair to Draupadi's Disrobing, comparing the rape motif in the Rape of the Lock and the Mahabharata. So here are my personal information, points to ponder, and now we can see the introduction of the Rape of the Lock. Rape of the Lock is mock epic poem in heroic couplet by Alexander Pope. The first version, published in 1712, consisted two cantos, and the another final version, published in 1714, was expanded to five cantos. It is based on actual incident of and written to reconcile the family that had been estranged by it. The Rape of the Lock recounts the story of a young woman who has a lock of hair stolen by an arrogant young man. Pop couches the trivial event in the term usually reserved for incidents for great moments, such as the quarrel between the Greek and the Trojans. The poem marries a rich range of literary allusion and the ironic commentary on the contemporary social world and sense of suppressed energy threatening to break through the veneer of civilization. Uh, now, in Mahabharata is also a great epic uh, of Indian mythology, one of the two Sanskrit epic of ancient Indian, the other of being a Ramayana. The Mahabharata is important source of information of the development of Hinduism between 400 BC and 200 CE, and in regarded by Hinduism. Mahabharata consists of a mass of mythological and didactic material arranged around the central heroic narrative and tells of the struggle for sovereignty and between two groups of cousins, Kauravas and Pandavas. The poem is made up for almost 10,000 couplets, about seven times the length of the Iliad and the Odyssey combined, divided into 18 parvas or section. And Mahabharata, although it is unlike that any single person wrote the poem, its authorship is traditional ascribed to the sage Vyasa. Historical and cultural context of both the works. Pope here presented a true faithful picture of 18th century life in its manifold aspects of Rape of the Lock. It is the real source of his strength. In no other poet we find such a forceful and true reflection of the life of his age as in Pope. His want to originality means the extreme and even more morbid sensibility which enables him to give the fullest utterance of the ideas of class and the nation
so far as the nation was really represented by the class. In Mahabharata is an ancient Indian epic wherein main story revolves around two branches of family, Pandavas and Kauravas. Uh, it also it was written by Krishna Dvipa and Vyas, himself a character in the epic. Composed is as according to tradition a direct verses of Ganesha wrote them down. Now we can see that the rape motif in the rape of the lock. The rape of the lock, in the rape of the lock, Belinda's hair referred in the title is also powerful symbol both of vanity and the power of female beauty over men. According to the poem, Belinda has nourished her locks, meaning she has trained them to be at their most fabulous, hanging temptingly down her neck. As such, they are portrayed as uh, chains over a springs of snares or entrap the unsuspecting young babe. When Pop initially introduced the locks, he says that have been nourished to the destruction of mankind, meaning they have a great power and have been groomed in such a way as have even more power. More power. They are doing their job. In fact, they do it well, causing the Baron to fall the completely in love, as it turns out later with Belinda that simply has to have her locks or one of them as a souvenir. This result entire battle and indeed the resentment between the two comes as a result of it. The rape motif in the Mahabharata, the Mahabharata transcendental perspective, this whole pastime is enacted demonstrate the truth that matter how protected we may be in the world, the outside events can turn in such unpredictable, unfortunate the unfortunate way that despite having many protectors, one may rendered defenseless, and it reveals the ultimate we have only one protector, that is Krishna. And the Krishna, this is the transcendental purpose of the whole pastime, and everything. Right now, Yudhishthira losing his self mastery and gambling to such a terrible extent was ultimately part of the Lord's plan, and demonstrating that a woman who had not one but five powerful husbands was yet ravished by the British person. She was in a public assembly in that presence of her five husbands who were her protectors in front of her elders who were supposed to defend her, and yet in such a situation she was reduced to a position of defenselessness and helplessness, where finally Krishna protected her and saved her honor. Comparing both the rape motif, according to me, we can argue that both the works rape of the both works rape motifs are similar, but in contrast, the rape motif in the Rape of the Lock by Alexander Pope and the Draupadi's disrobing in the Indian epic Mahabharata, both if involve violence of women's in modesty, but they are quite different in context of consequences. In the rape of the knock, the term rape is used metaphorically to describe the trivial theft of the lock on woman's hair, and which is a trivial thing. And the Belinda in this on this trivial thing, Belinda reacted too much serious, Man- and and uh, and Belinda's hair, highlighting the satire of superficiality in society. In contrast, Draupadi's disrobing is a tragic and violent event in which she is publicly humiliated, and illustrating themes of honor, justice, and gender inequality in ancient India. The two motifs serve distinct literary and cultural purpose in their respective works. In conclusion, we can say that now in the we can say that the comparative analysis of the rape motif in Rape of the Lock and Mahabharata, as seen through the contrasting lenses of 18th century English satire and ancient Indian epic, provides a thought-provoking examination of the cultural, social, and literary context in which these narratives were crafted. While both texts addresses the violence of a woman's modesty, they do so with stark differences in tone, purpose, and the treatment of the victims. Through this comparative study, we gain a deeper appreciation for a complexity of these narratives and the ways in which literature can reflect and challenge the values and beliefs of its time, ultimately inviting us a question and reflecting upon evolution of societal attitudes and portrayals of women in the two distinct culture and eras under scrutiny. These are my reference, and thank you. If anyone have any question, you can feel free to ask.
Hardi, my question is Belinda only lost a lock, but Draupadi was humiliated by torn down her clothes in the crowd. Do you think it's completely different dilemmas both are facing?
Yes, according to me, Belinda and Draupadi, both both are completely different in a dilemma, but faces both dilemma, uh, uh, Belinda, Belinda reacted so much furious when furious, and she was also threatened that the arrogant man was arrogant man was cut her rape on only lock of her only one lock of her hair, but in the Draupadi and Belinda's rape of the lock is a trivial thing, and as well as in Mahabharata, Draupadi is disrobing by Dhritarashtra and Dhritarashtra and Dhritarashtra in a royal court, and it is a major it is a major thing. It is not trivial thing. It like Belin, that both are completely different dilemma facing. Both are facing different dilemma facing.
So my question is for you that Hardi, do you think that Draupadi's situation is more serious and why?
Yes, Draupadi's situation is more serious because uh, in in that situation, it because in that it was a very serious, and it's a serious situation because on the in that time. The thing is that Draupadi's character is a major aspect of the of in the royal court. That's why Draupadi's situation is more serious. And at that time, it was talked about Draupadi's honor, Draupadi's character, and yes, that's it.
Hello everyone. Today's my topic of presentation is the evolution of women's rights, contrasting Pamela and present day. Pamela Andrew in the Pamela or Virtue Rewarded symbolize the 18th century women marked by the strong morality, submission to man, and domestic focus. Resilience and her transition from servant to respected lady exemplify the era's ideal. Basically, the Pamela Andrew is symbolizing that she is a kind of very much example for the 18th century women. On the other hand, today's women's rights are how evolving that we are going to take a look in this presentation. Pamela embodies 18th century female servant character. Her main work in the time is to being a servant. Her resilience and virtue reflect real life servitude challenges, such as, according to her, virtue is truest nobility. So she is thinking that if she will be virtuous, then she didn't face that much of problem. At the end, she will face a positive change in the society. And marriage after advances question female servitude's reward that. His master trying to take advantages of her, and still she is virtuous so that she is getting a reward at the end. So that is the character is trying to portraying this, unyielding against Mr. B's advances, displaying strength. Such dialogues like, I begin to tremble at being left alone with a man of such loose principles. So this quote is reflect that she has a very kind of anger from Mr. B, and even she is resisting against her master. So 18th century women are not that much of capable to question them, but Pamela's character is such that she is questioning in that. Pamela's revolutionary journey, that Pamela's marriage to Mr. B defines the class norms, prioritizing love and social status, illustrating societal rebellion. That though she is belonging from a lower class, still she is able to gain the class by marrying Mr. B. So this also reflect by her this dialogue that, oh, Mr. B, there is great deal in a young woman's being, lifted all at once to the highest station. So even in this dialogue, we can find that she thinks that by marrying Mr. B, her status is suddenly get changed from lower class to higher class. So now she has a different kind of rights. And uses of letters in the as we know that Pamela is an epistolary novel, and that's why the letters are a central theme through which Pamela is getting her rights. So letters are symbolizing that, and she resisting. She noted down everything in the letter. So this is a one kind of a way in which the women can raise their voice and get their rights. While we are talking about such aspect that 18th century females in Pamela's time have a limited autonomy and required consent. Every time Pamela wants consent of Mr. B for doing anything. And on the other hand, while we are comparing it to the present time, then nowadays women have a greater kind of opportunity, and now they don't need someone's consent on the larger context, and they are independent in decision making. And even they have a, even while we're talking about 18th century, then they don't have that much of an economic independence. While present time women are going into the workplace, women are becoming economical independent, and that's why their rights are evaluating in that time. Legal and politics involvement, and we can find that even throughout the novel of Pamela, Pamela is not at all going into the political affairs, while in present time the women's are going. Women's rights evolution, that nowadays women's are gaining legal voting rights, and now we are finding that there are anti-discrimination and even in economic empowerment. Pamela's being a woman in a form of a lower class create extra difficulties and unequal power dynamics, just like intersectional feminism described. According to Kimberly Crenshaw, she said that a prism for seeing the way in which various forms of inequality often operate together and exacerbate each other. For example, Pamela being a woman facing problems, but she is also belonging from lower class. So there is not one kind of inequality, but multiple kind of inequality are putting down on the Pamela, and that's why she is being a victim of a intersectional feminism too. While we are talking about the context of present time, then and in the politics, recently we find that while making of a new parliament, this new bill of women reservation bill is going to be passed, but still not yet passed. But what kind of advantages women will get through this bill? So women get chance to be in politics in India, and they are doing this by sitting aside and sits for women in Lok Sabha and state legislative assemblies. So now women are getting space in 33% of space in the Lok Sabha and legislative assembly too. Not even women, but scheduled caste and scheduled tribes are also getting space in new parliament. So this bill is going to be too much profitable for women's rights too. And the seats will be decided after a new census, which will announced in later years, and it will be last for 15 years in parliament decided. So the new reservation bill, what kind of advantages this new reservation bill will give to the women, that it increase gender equality, inclusive policies, and greater female participation in politics too. So now they have a right to make laws too. So now their consent is also matters. Even recently, according to Claudia Goldin, who won a Nobel Prize in economics recently, she shared her view that in the past many women in US used to work, but then the numbers of working went down. So according to article of Times of India, that two status, Duflo and Banerjee, they both status that it started going up again during the Great Depression and World War II, women's participation in workplace, while in the present time it is decreasing because of such responsibilities that women are facing. They are not getting equal position in workplace too. So now this is decreasing. So that's what the outcome of Claudia's research of the time, and that's why she got the Nobel Prize in that. And while we are talking about in the context of India, that it's even harder for women to work due to family responsibilities and safety concern. We need to make things better to women at work. That's what the writers or editors of the article said in that article. So, in conclusion, we can say that women's rights have come long way since Pamela's time in 18th century, and this shows that society and laws have changed due to years of people fighting for women's rights. So now, not women are not that much of suppressed. The evolution is there. Women's rights are evoluted with the time, and comparing Pamela's time with today's remind us how we have to improve, but how much more we need to make things completely fair for everyone. So, according to the last article, that we are in a better place, but still we need to work on that kind of a places. That's what the conclusion of this presentation can be. These are my references. And now, if you have any question, feel free to ask.
So Jatri, my question is for you, that tell me that Pamela's marriage with Mr. B was right in your point of view or not? And then if yes, then why? And if no, then also why?
Okay. First of all, Pamela belongs to 18th century. So while we are taking Pamela's context at that time, so at that time Pamela's marriage, because she has not that kind of economic independence, even she has to work for her own gain. So at that time she need that kind of a marriage which can give her also a class evolution, that she get a class and money too. So at while talking about the context of 18th century, it is right, but when we are comparing it in the present time, then Pamela must not be married Mr. B, because now she has legal rights. We have a great kind of rights, and we have a great kind of even laws, so that can help Pamela to get justice. So if Pamela would be in present time, she cannot get married to Mr. B. So in 18th century context, she can be, but now if we are comparing it in present time, that now maybe Pamela cannot get married to Mr. B.
That's my question is Pamela's role in the revolutionary journey and what kind of impact she had on the moment on that time.
Okay. Samuel Richardson wrote this Pamela. He was basically editor, and he was writing this for providing examples that how what kind of a letter should be written in that time. So what is a ideal kind of a layout for the letter, and that's why he started writing. But slowly and steadily he started writing on the behalf of Pamela, and he's trying to evolve the character of Pamela. And as being a male, he wrote about the Pamela. So he tries to convey the message that through the character of Pamela, sure, other women can get the idea that what kind of virtues she needs in her life, and what if you will be virtuous, then you will definitely get rewarded. That's what Samuel Richardson is trying to say through this novel. So her revolutionary journey is totally we can say that it can be exemplify for other women that they can learn. So basic motive of Samuel Richardson was that women also get moral message from that. So definitely this novella or particular character of Pamela is giving a impact on all the women of that time, 18th century era. And even women are too much get involved with this character that they started imitating Pamela even. And after that, even writers are getting that kind of influence that other writers wrote such as Shamela and all. So the character of Pamela is a kind of a character which give a vast impact on the audience, particularly on the women and on the other writers too. Okay, thank you.
Hello everyone, I am BHUMIBA GOHIL, and today I will deal with Stockholm Syndrome and how it's presented in literature and movies. These are my academic information. So let us start with understanding Stockholm Syndrome. What is it? So it is when the hostage as in someone who is kidnapped, we can say, experience a powerful positive feeling towards their captor. This phrase was coined by psychiatrist Niels Bohr, and another famous psychiatrist, Frank Åkerberg, gives this definition of Stockholm Syndrome. He says that in Stockholm Syndrome, there is a sudden, terrifying capture. The hostage is stunned, shocked, and often certain that he or she will die. The hostage then becomes like an infant. So we see that this happens when the hostage is completely dependent on their captor, and this is a psychological coping mechanism they develop. So, this is when victims view their captors in positive light, sympathize with them, and sometimes develop romantic attachments. So, this is the basic idea of Stockholm Syndrome. Now, let us see how it's presented. So, first, let us see Pamela or Virtue Rewarded. It is an epistolary novel by Samuel Richardson. The protagonist is Pamela Andrews, a 15-year-old maid who is abused by her employer, Mr. B. He harasses her physically and mentally, and when she refuses to have relationship with him, Mr. B kidnaps her. But what is more shocking than all of this is that at the end, Pamela forgives him and gets married to him. So, this is the absurd portrayal, and modern day readers can identify the problematic theme of this. So, we have an answer to why this happened, and that is Stockholm Syndrome. As Higgins says in her blog, as readers of post psychology perspective, it is close to impossible to ignore the case of Stockholm syndrome Richardson's presented. So here we see the absurd portrayal of relationship, a Stockholm syndrome example that makes readers uncomfortable. The next one is Beauty and the Beast. We saw in Pamela the absurdity of Stockholm Syndrome. Here we see the romanticizing of Stockholm Syndrome. It is a very famous fairy tale, and the most famous version is written by French novelist Jean-Marie Le Prince de Beaumont. And after that, it has been adapted into movies and TV shows several times. So the basic plot is that Belle is imprisoned by Beast, but she eventually falls in love with him. And we see that here over time, it is a fairy tale of our childhood, and I'm sure all of us know it, but it does not make us as uncomfortable as Pamela made us. And the reason for that is because over time it is portrayed as a fairy tale. And as Lee says in her paper, the original beauty of Beauty and the Beast did suffer from Stockholm Syndrome. She developed feelings for the Beast under stress, alone and unsupported, rather than through genuine connection. However, as the story has been altered for modern audiences, elements of Stockholm Syndrome have all but vanished. So, in here, we see the romanticizing of it, and it has been done through time and through modern adaptations. So, it is not very problematic, but it is portrayed as a fairy tale. Then we have Highway, a Bollywood film directed by Imtiaz Ali. So here also we have a similar theme. Veera Tripathi is kidnapped for money and she falls in love with her captor. But there is a twist here, and that is Veera's struggle with her family and her troubled past. So she was abused in her family as well by relatives, and she was feeling she had no one to genuinely care for her. And that is why when she was kidnapped and she finds um, someone caring for her for the first time, so their bond is justifiable, you can say, and you understand the relationship and why it happened. As Amanda says, she tasted independence while she was being held at ransom, but she feels imprisoned in her own home. And we also see that Veera and Mahabir, that is the kidnapper, they bond over troubled childhood. So here we see a believable portrayal of relationship and justifying of Stockholm Syndrome. There are several movies and TV shows and books that portray this. Here are a few examples of movies. The Crying Game by Neil Jordan, Buffalo 66 by Vincent Gallo, Ravan by Mani Ratnam, and Berlin Syndrome by Kate Shortland. Here are some books that present Stockholm Syndrome: Phantom of the Opera by Gaston Leroux, 6 Days of the Corner by James Grady, Captive by A.J. Granger, and Stolen by Lucy Christopher. So, to conclude, we saw that Stockholm Syndrome, what is Stockholm Syndrome, and how it is presented by different creators in different manner. But we should also remember the impact of certain themes and ideas have on us, because our movies, our literature is very impactful in our life. And sometimes people get false encouragement by watching something. They accept a false message. So creators should be mindful of that. If you remember, there was recently an incident where a man in Australia misbehaved with a woman, and then he pleaded to the court that he did this because he was badly influenced by Bollywood movies. So, in this way, there is impact. So, we should be mindful of that. And also, people should be aware of such topics, because Stockholm Syndrome does not only limit itself to kidnapping and everything. As Ockberg further says, the significance of Stockholm Syndrome goes beyond rare instances of kidnapping and hostage taking. It explains aspects of attachment to battering husband and incestuous father. It is not conscious, willful behavior to avoid punishment. It is regression and recovery of a powerful, primitive feeling toward the giver of life. So we see that so many times in our society, we see that people suffer from domestic violence and they still do not do anything. They keep living with them. And we wonder, why is that? So that is because they are completely dependent on them, and they develop this, you could say, attachment to them and positive feelings towards them. So it is also important to have awareness of such topics. Here are my few references. And thank you. Now for any questions.
Bhumi, my question is for you. In the movie HIRAL, Stockholm Syndrome portrait, does it reflect contemporary societal dynamics?
You could say, I mean, I personally thought that highway was one of a kind like example, because if you see, she was abused at home, and then she willingly accepted to live with her kidnapper. And I don't think that would happen in our society, because even if most of the times, even if they nowadays there is such kind of awareness, so if people uh, face abuses at their home, they would report it to the proper authorities, and they would take proper actions towards them. And yeah, so I personally think it was one of a kind example. Any other questions?
Okay, my question is, why is it called Stockholm Syndrome?
Okay, so as you might know, Stockholm is a city in Sweden, and this is where the first incident happened. So in 1973, I think there was a bank robbery, and in that, two criminal had kept a few people hostage for 2 3 days, and when they were released, they showed a very you can say interesting thing. They did not complain about them, their captors, and in fact they were very empathetic towards them, and they were scared that the authorities will harass them. So this kind of started this, that they were sympathizing with their captor, and this was the first instance, so that is why it's called Stockholm syndrome.
Click on your presentation.
Yes, sir, it is open here.
Then you have to share that tab. You see, you have to share this tab instead. At the top, you might be seeing share this tab. If you share entire screen in the beginning, then there is no problem. But if you share a tab, then you have to switch over to that tab. Then you have to switch over to that tab. You want to save yourself from this confusion, then don't share Chrome tab. Share entire screen.
Okay, so good morning to all of you. I am AAKASH CHAVDA, and the important on my today's topic of presentation is the importance of being satirist, Alexander Pope, and the Neo-classical age. In this presentation, we will see about the Alexander Pope as a satirist, as a prominent satirist of the Neo-classical age, and these many things we have to see in this presentation. First, we will see the background of the neoclassical age. This roughly expand from the 1700 to 1800s. The glorious revolution of the 1688 banished the last of Stuart monarch and established William of Orange to throne. This event marks the end of long struggle for political freedom. The glorious revolution is also known as the bloodless revolution, and the last Stuart monarch, who is a Catholic and following the Catholic religion, James II, was barred from the accession of throne, and Protestant nobles called upon the William of Orange to the throne. And this event marks the end of long struggle of political freedom and established modern constitutional monarchy. And to get votes, the people of England must be approached with the ideas, facts, arguments, and information. Because this age is also known as the Enlightenment age, the people crave for knowledge, and so that to gain votes, they must be approached with ideas and facts. And moreover, 18th century is remarkable for its rapid social and political development in the British society. And satire as a powerful tool emerged for the political and social commentary. Either, if you take any writer, they were either Tory or Whig, and to advance their political career, they satirize their enemies. And writers of this age also sought inspiration from the classical writers of the Greek and Roman. And this age marks the rise of satire in prose. Alexander Pope and Jonathan Swift were the two prominent satirists of this age. Here is the brief biography of the Alexander Pope. Alexander Pope was born on 1688 in London and died on 1744 in the Twickenham near London. He was a Catholic, and so that Catholics at the time are barred to live in this London city and forced to move to the village of Binfield. These enabled Pope to make enduring friendship with other Catholic exiles. And as we have seen that he modeled his poem upon the ancient heroic epic poems. So he has a profound knowledge of Latin and Greek because from the childhood he learned the Latin and Greek by the Catholic priest. And Alexander Pope also suffered Pott's disease, a spinal tuberculosis, which caused him his appearance hunched down a little bit, and for that he frequently mocked by his enemies as well. But this only gave to edge to his satire. And Pope is regarded as one of the prominent of the age, one of the prominent poet of the age. He eventually became the first independently wealthy full-time writer in English history. If you are talking about the satire of the early 18th century, then you have to go through the Scribblers Club. It is the early 18th century writers club, and they include Alexander Pope, Jonathan Swift, the two main satirists, and the other three are Thomas Parnell, John Arbuthnot, and John Gay. The Scribblers Club was a British literary club formed in early 18th century. It was included prominent writers and satirists of the time. The purpose was to ridicule pretentious erudition and scholarly jargon through the fictional character Martinus Scribblers. It is a comical character in the work of John Dryden, and by this character they have satirized the learning and literature of the time. The Pope's Dunshaugh, Swift, Gulliver Travels, and John Gay's The Beggar's Opera are result or in a way influence of the Scribblers Club. Now, satire in 18th century. As we have know, the 18th century is undergoing the vast changes under the influence of industrial revolution, and the political parties were emerging and all that. So the satire during this period aimed to point out the shortcomings of society, exposing Britain's flaw and the hypocrisy of the time. Two prominent satirists of the age were Alexander Pope and Jonathan Swift, and they satirized the different aspects of the British society as well. Both the writers exposed superficial follies, pompousness, and the moral corruption of the society. Pope's Rape of the Lock and the Dunshaugh, and Swift, A Modest Proposal, and the Gulliver's Travels are considered the best of their kind. Alexander Pope, the satirist. Pope's contribution to the satire in English literature is so much great that first half of the 18th century is often referred as the age of the Pope. polished his work with utmost care, and he is considered as one of the greatest satirists of the 18th century. And his works, such as Essay on Criticism, The Rape of the Lock, and The Dunciad, are better reflect his wit, humor, and his satirical capacity. Mel observed that Pope has skillfully recreated and transformed the heritage of the Horace, Juvenal, and Persius into effective satirical poems to attack the political tyranny and literary despotism. And there is much influence of the Horatian satire. But in the disguise of the Horatian satire, there we can see some of the elements of the Juvenal satire as well in the work of the Alexander Pope. Now, I have put some of the few lines from the poem Rape of the Lock, and they better describe the satire of the Pope. The Rape of the Lock, originally published as The Rape of the Lock, an heroic comical poem. As we all know, this is the heroic epic poem, first published in 1712, and it is based on a disagreement between the two aristocratic English families during the 18th century, and the two families were the Catholic families. Uh, the Baron cuts off the hair of the Arabella farmer, and uh, this got into the quarrels. In this poem, all the mannerisms of the society are pictured in the minutest detail and satirized with the most delicate wit. Pope has satirized the frivolous nature of the elite class woman and of his time. Pope, in his Rape of the Lock, is Horatian in tone. As we have seen, he used the delicate and gentle satire upon the society, and by holding up a mirror to the follies and the vanities of the upper class. And the British character of the poem represent the facsimiles, which means a copy of the 18th century British personal ideas, how Britishers were thought at that time, how frivolous their nature, and how their vanities are portrayed in the Rape of the Lock. Uh, First, the Pope starts the poem with with a satirical beginning. We can say, what dire offenses from the amorous causes spring, what mighty contest rise from the trivial things. From this quote, we can see the Pope has foreshadowed the trivial nature of the poem, and he made a gentle mockery of the upper class. Pope demonstrated the absurdity of the taking event too seriously, while also mocking the arrogance and superficiality of the upper class society. This nymph to the destruction of mankind nourished two locks which gracefully hung behind. You can see the extravagance and hyperbole that Pope used in these lines. In the second canto, Belinda arms herself for the fray like a Homeric warrior. As we have seen, that Pope has profound knowledge of the ancient writers, and he frequently alludes to the Homer's Achilles, that he is a famous war hero of the Trojan Wars, and he compared the Belinda with the Achilles, that as Achilles shields himself for going in the war, just like that, Belinda uses his sevenfold petticoat to go into the social gatherings. Pope here described the pompous and the fashionable attire of the Belinda, through which he has satirized the extravagance and vanity of the upper class society and the frivolous nature of the women at that time. Here, flights of pins extend their shining rows, puff, powders, patches, Bibles, billet dogs. It is description of the Belinda's dressing table, and here flies the pins. That is, there are so many pins that are on the tables, and the shining rows, puffs, powders, that are the cosmetics that used by the Belinda, and it is describes the vanity and the fashionable of the 18th century woman. To conclude, in the neoclassical age, satire played a very contributing role and the versatile role as well. And by critiquing, reforming, and entertaining society, writers of this period drew inspiration from the classical tradition, and that classical tradition paved the way for the rise of satire. And the contribution of the Alexander Pope is remained paramount throughout the century of English history. These are my references. Thank you. If you have any question to ask.
Akash, my question is for you. How does satire effectively teach and engage people about important topics, particularly in relation to the Pope?
Yes, Pope has satirized the society of their time, and mainly the vices of the society. That society undergoes the many changes under the under the emergence of the political parties and all that. And the people at that 18th century become more frivolous and more vanity in them, and they think they know more things, but it is not so. So that Pope has satirized the uh, people of that age, and teaching the English about important topics. And yes, the he's developed the satirical technique to satire on people and the society of the age.
Akash, whose satire do you think is more impactful, Alexander Pope's or Jonathan Swift's?
The two writers, Alexander Pope and Jonathan Swift, used different kind of satire. The Alexander Pope's used the Horatian satire, which is much gentle in tone, and it is uh, very much not so much bitter, such as used by the Jonathan Swift in his work A Modest Proposal and the Gulliver's Travel. The main key difference between the Jonathan Swift and Alexander Pope's satire is that Jonathan Swift is much more bitter in his nature and his satire, and Alexander Pope is much gentle in his satire.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Rahul Desai, and today I am presenting my presentation on the topic of the reception of the Rape of the Lock in 18th century versus modern interpretations. Here, my personal introduction. You will find these points explanation in this PPT. Let's start with the background of the Rape of the Lock. The Rape of the Lock is a mock heroic narrative poem by Alexander Pope, first published in the year 1712. Alexander Pope was the great writer from Neo-classical era. Major themes are like, we can find there are so many major themes in this mock heroic poem, The Rape of the Lock, like satire, social mores, vanity, femininity, mock heroic, and Bell's letter. Pope satirized the aristocratic society of 18th century England, focusing on the triviality of an incident involving the theft of a lock of hair. The central content of this poem is the lock of hair. Key themes in this poem, like first one is satire, Pope's use of humor and irony to criticize the foolish and vices of society. Second is class, exploration of the social divide between the aristocracy and the middle class. And third one is gender roles, examination of the expectations and limitation placed on the women in 18th century society. 18th century society's reception about the poem. Initial shock and controversy due to the poem's light-hearted treatment of a serious subject. We can identify the main focusing on the major subject. Some viewed it as a witty commentary on social conversations, while others called it scandalous and immoral. Popular among the upper classes who appreciate its satirical portrayal of social hierarchies. We can find modern interpretations and criticism in this poem, like first feminist analysis, a discussion of gender power dynamics and the objectifications of women. Any talk, anywhere, woman has a central and all about the objectification on the woman, about the woman. Then second, colonial critique, examining the implications of colonialism within the poem's portrayal of femininity and beauty standards. In this poem, beauty is the central and major contrast in this poem. Character of in this poem, the Rape of the Lock, character of Belinda is self-obsessed with her own beauty. Here we can see also the myth of Narcissus. Satirical tradition, recognition of Pope's contribution of the satirical tradition and its influence on subsequent literary works. Comparing and contrasting the two reception, like 18th century society, shock, controversy, and appreciation from the upper class. We can clearly identify in the mock heroic poem, The Rape of the Lock, the class system is in this. And modern interpretations, expanded analysis, and critical examination of social, gender, and colonial themes. Continued relevance, recognition of the poem's enduring impact on literary and social discourse. Exploring the historical and cultural context. We can find in 18th centuries the fashion, change in fashion, emphasizing the importance of appearance and social status in aristocratic society. Then coffee houses culture, discussion forums for intellectual and the dissemination of ideas, literary salons, place for writer, poet, and intellectuals to exchange the idea and engage in literary discussion. As we can see, the Richardson, as we can see the coffee house, many poets and members join with the coffee house and discussion about the century, about the changes, and about the many other things. Now let's conclude my presentation. The Rape of the Lock remains a masterpiece of satire, offering insight into the social complexity of 18th century society while providing a foundation for contemporary literary analysis and interpretation. Many changes we can identify in between 18th century versus modern interpretations. The great satire we can find in The Rape of the Lock by Alexander Pope. Pope known for his satiric writing style and his sense of humor. Pope's contribution in neoclassical era was very delightful. Here is my references, citation, and thank you. If any questions, you can ask to free.
Rahul, you mentioned class system theme in the poem. So, what differences are there in class system of 18th century and modern times?
Yeah. Yes, class system in 18th century we can clearly identify because of discrimination between upper class and money there are the central in 18th century. In modern 18th century and modern times, in modern times we can identify money is not central. We all are one and we unity and we work together. Thank you. Anyone else? Judging by the money and 18th century that
Rahul, my
time.
question is that how does the story explore the significance of vanity and superficiality among its characters?
How does the story explore the significance of vanity and superficiality among its character? Yeah. The vanity and significance of vanity and superficiality are the central theme of the rap of the lock, and vanity and superficiality depicted through the character of Belinda, the protagonist, and her own obsession with her own beauty and self beauty and social character like uh, right, vanity and superficiality among his character. Thank you. Here I have concluded my presentation.
Share the screen. Present, click on present.
Hello everyone. I am KAVITA CHAUHAN and today as I am present the topic deal with the topic Pamela versus Shamela. It's my personal information. I am talk about the table of contents. Let's start my presentation with an introduction of Pamela. Pamela, in Full of Pamela, or Virtue Rewarded, novel in epistolary style by Samuel Richardson, published in 1714 and based on a story about a servant and the men who failing to seduce her and marry her. Introduction of Shamela. An epistolary for the life of Mrs. Shamela Andrew by Henry Fielding is a insulating, full, and highly effective parody of Samuel Richardson's popular epistolary novel Pamela. Shamela was published on 2nd April 1741 about the Samuel Richardson. Born into a large family, Richardson was baptized on 19th August 1689 in England. Died 4th July 1761, London, England. Samuel Richardson was an English writer, printer, known for the epistolary novels. About the Henry Fielding, born 22 April 1707, Sharp from Somerset, England. Died 8 August 1754, Lisbon, Portugal. Henry Fielding is a novelist, playwright, and magnate. Was an active and influential public figure in the early 18th century, literary period, Restoration, and 18th century. Now, the Pamela versus Shamela. Pamela, Samuel Richardson's Pamela or Virtue Rewarded 1714 and Henry Fielding Shamela 1741 are two of the most famous epistolary novels in English literature. Both novels tell the story of the young woman who is seduced by her master. But Pamela is a moralistic tale about the importance of female virtue, while Shamela is the satirical parody of Richardson's novel. Parody means any laughing to any serious works. That Pamela Andrew is a servant girl in Mr. B's house in Pamela novel. Now, Pamela is a virtuous woman and she never compromises her honor to any situation. And her servant maid Shamela is not a virtuous Pamela. Rather, she is wily and manipulative, using her beauty elude to seduce a man. Means Shamela have no virtue as a virtue to bury to others. While Pamela focuses on the life of a young virtuous girl who refused to accept her employee's offer to have an affair with him. Shamela present on completely different type of character, a girl who tried to seduce her boss. Pamela convey her story through the general entire and through letters. She letters to with her parents, and Shamela convey her story through the letter, but she write to only her mothers. In the Pamela is like ending with a happy ending, as Mary with Mr. B and accept her first wife and her child. But Shamela is a tragic ending because Shamela was married as like a married engaged. Mr. B, his name is in the Shamela novel is Bobby. Is like and Mr. William was extramarital affair like person, and he was also know after before the marriage, and he was throughout and punished to Shamela, and he was working and a prostitute in the London, and he was and is like a tragic and punishment in the novel is the different type of seducing. Is characters Pamela and Shamela. Pamela character in the novel Pamela Andrew, and Shamela novel in character Shamela Andrew. Shamela is a virtuous lady, and Pamela is a virtuous lady, and Shamela is a seducing and more like a money income as like. And Mr. B character in Pamela and Mr. B's character also is like a different type of character in the wealthy man in Shamela. Mr. Williams in Shamela is a good person and help to Shamela and disguise her as like a nun and help to Shamela. But Pamela novel in Mr. Williams' role is like extramarital affair, like a roman and Shamela with relation and romance with Mr. Williams. And Pamela, Mrs. Javik's character is like a maid servant in the and Shamila novel is like a different type of okay. He was always joined with Shamila's work, like seducing and always support her. And Mrs. Jervix is most character of the is contemporary is like controversial character is not a good character in Shamila. In Pamela, Mrs. Verse is like a positive view of describe this character is like a help to Mr. Bobby to how Shamila is like a do is like a different way to something. And now its conclusion. In the last Pamela novel happy ending with joy and another, Shamela was end with punishment for Pamela's pro- promiscuity. Now that's prove honesty is better than seducing. It's my references. And thank you. If you have any question to ask freely.
Kavita, what is your interpretation of Pamela's behavior in the novel Pamela or Virtue Rewarded?
Yes. My point of view, interruption. Pamela's behavior in the novel Pamela, Virtue Rewarded. Pamela is like a virtuous lady, but in the novel is virtuous and moral is like only through like dikhava is like, but and reality is like not a contemporary all women like this Pamela. And Pamela is like a different type of gender roles is like a gender role in the contemporary time. It's like a gender role is like a man and woman is like a different type of characterized is the rich man and the poor lady is like something is not accepted in the contemporary eras is a class different in the Pamela is the and I believe that Pamela is the not like only is like a good person in the novel, but the reality is like a different type of all women in the novel and contemporary eras. Okay.
So, Kavita, my question is in Pamela, virtue is a central theme. How does Shamela satirize this theme?
Okay. In Pamela Virtue Central theme, Shamela started it with satirical theme. Virtue is like a mispronunciations, like virtue is the VI, and Shamela we start with like a VA. It's like starting with satirical and mispronunciation. And Shamela was satiric of all novel is satire is of the Mr. Samuel Richardson novel Pamela is Pamela is a show like a all ladies are virtuous in the 18th century and some moral infection like a different type of the way is like a virtue is not in the novel is like a she also show is like a satire. Shamela is also satire is the lady like a virtuous not is like as the she is also seducing man and focusing on the how is like internally feel like he become and seduce is also to like him. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm JAGRUTI and today I'm presenting the greatest poet of Scotland, Robert Burns. This is the information about my topic, and this is the content that I will discuss. Burns' life, poetry and songs, cultural memory, and the national identity of Robert Burns. So let us start with Robert Burns' life. The greatest poet of Scotland. He was born on January 25 in the year of 1759 in a two-room clay cottage built by his father and known as Burns Cottage, and died in the year of 1796. He died in the youngest age, 37. He is famous for writing many poems and songs, is known as the national poet of Scotland. He worked on their father's farm when they were growing up and their family were quite poor. His poetry and songs. Robert Burns first wrote his poem when he was 15 years old, and he's a poem about the girl who working with in a farm. Burns wrote poems in an old dialect Scottish called Scots, but some poems are also in English. Burns penned hundreds of poems throughout his lifetime, and many of them would go on to become famous worldwide. His a famous song, Old Lang Syne, perhaps the best known for his work, is said to have been adapted by Burns and old Scottish folk songs. His famous works. Uh, he was one of the Scotland's most renowned poet, and he was known for his works like Old Lang Syne, To a Mouse, A Red Red Rose, Tam O'Shanter, Is Fond Kiss, and the other works. And his poetry often reflects many themes like love, nature, and culture, and cultural memory, the national identity of Robert Burns. Robert Burns celebrated all over the world in both scholarly assessment of his life and work and arena of popular opinion. Burns continues to attract critical acclaim and to exit board appeal. He was recently, for example, described as a man of millennium and what the greatest ever coast by academic and historians. Burns Night. Uh, he was influence can be seen in culture, music, and also literature. Burns Night is annually celebrated in Scotland on around January 25. It commemorates the life of the bard Robert Burns. The day also celebrated Burns' contribution to Scottish culture. Robert Burns, also known as Robbie Burns, the national bard, the bard of Ayrshire, and the ploughman poet. He widely regarded as the national poet of Scotland, the ploughman poet. The main reason Burns is so popular today is because of the themes and language of everyday life that he used. Burns continuously popular in Scotland with the eclipse of his reputation in academic literary circles since the 1950s, offering some reasons for the discrepancy. Burns' image as a heaven-taught ploughman. Burns was a champion of the Scots language at a time when it was not popular in literary circles. So Robert Burns' talent and his cultural significance and enduring popularity celebrated every year as a national poet of Scotland. Here is a reference, and thank you. If there are any questions.
So, Draupadi, I have a question. What is the significance of Burns or sing in popular culture, and when is it traditionally sung?
Yes. The main significance of Burns' famous song "Old Lang Syne" in popular culture holds during the celebration during the New Year celebration, and it is a traditionally sung at the stroke of midnight on a New Year's to farewell old years and welcoming New Year's.
Jagruti, my question is, what is significant event Robert Burns' life greatly influenced his decision to become a poet?
Robert Burns greatly influenced his decision to become a poet during a sudden death of his father, and these events place responsibility on his shoulder, managing a house, family, and other things, and it is a connection with the deep struggle, and even he was wrote in his poetry about the struggle of life, passing hardships and aspiration of ordinary people. Stop sharing. Please.
A very good morning, everyone. Darshan this side, and I am here with the presentation Pamela's Contemporary Odyssey, A Journey Through Today's World. This is my personal introduction. These are the points to ponder. Now, Pamela is an epistolary novel by Samuel Richardson, and we are all aware about epistolary novel. It is a novel in letter forms. It was published in 1740, and it explores the theme of virtue, role of women in society, and class. And most novel of mid 80s and 90s follow Richardson's ability to teach us as well as amuse.
Now, introduction to Samuel Richardson. He was an English novelist, printer, and writer, born in Derbyshire, 1689. Known for a pioneer of epistolary novel, and his demise was at London in 1761. 1761. These are his key works, in which Pamela is most famous. Now, the advantages of a novel in letter form. So it provides personal, unfiltered perspective from character. It gives a multiple character or multiple viewpoints of the character. It provides a deeper insight into personalities and the motives of character. It offers insight into historical, social norms and event, and it creates a deep emotional connection with the character. Now, the character of Pamela in 18th century. So, Pamela was virtuous and chaste, determined and resilient, modest and humble, and religious and piety. Now, what if Pamela exists in contemporary times? What changes would have occurred if Pamela would have existed in contemporary times? So, first, the Mr. B faced fewer legal consequences, while today his action could result in criminal charges or lawsuit. So, Pamela would have very good legal support. Second is, if Pamela exists, the organizations like workplace harassment and women's right would definitely support her, and Me Too movement kind of thing also help her in the problem she was facing. Furthermore, in 18th century, Pamela's virtue was her resistance to advances. Today, consent and empowerment guide her action differently. After the social media would have a great help in this struggle of Pamela. It would definitely strengthen the voice of Pamela to a larger audience. Now, the feminist advocacy would ensure that Pamela's story is taken seriously and her experience are not trivialized or dismissed. This support would encourage her to speak out and seek justice without fear of societal backlash. Definitely, modern media would amplify or strengthen the voice of Pamela by fostering support, accountability, and awareness while challenging norms, offering legal guidance, and as well preserving her privacy. So, in conclusion, if Pamela exists in contemporary times, definitely she would suffer less, and his narrative would be completely changed. These changes would reshape her narrative and the challenges she faced in her pursuit of virtue and self-respect. These are my references. Now you can ask me any queries if you have.
So my question is, do you find any unvirtuous traits in Pamela?
In the novel, Pamela mostly portrays as a statue of virtue. We don't find or it does not portray any unvirtuous trait. But as per my point of view, or it could be a major point of view by our generation, that Pamela has too much innocence, and innocence is good, but having a too much innocence will eventually get you in the trouble. Like Pamela does not get a quick idea that someone is advancing her or using her. She get the late idea of it, and yes, too much innocence is dangerous, and innocence is good, but we cannot call it a totally unvirtuous trait, but it could be it. Any other?
Darshan, my question is, has the power dynamics really changed today? Because we see many Pamela in the contemporary time.
So, in the comparison of 18th century, power dynamics is hugely changed, and yes, there are still many cases Yes, we have catches in the modern time, but if we compare to the 18th century, women who are facing this kind of problems are getting support, getting legal guidance, and as I mentioned in the presentation, social media and the modern media is helping them. They are getting support, which Pamela does not get. So, comparison to 18th century, it is very much changed. Power dynamics is changed. So, this is it. Thank you very much. See you at the next presentation.
Hello friends, I am CHHAYA DIHORA. Today I am going to deal with the topic Ode on the Death of a Favorite Cat Drowned in Tub of Goldfishes. Basically, Ode means a lyrical poem and that deal with sad themes. Here my personal information. Here point to be discussed about Thomas Gray. Uh, he was born in December 26, 1716, London, England, and died in July 13, 1771, Cambridge, England. And he was the poet, classical scholar, and professor. He published 13 poems during his lifetime. About poem. The poem is based on a real incident. Um the poem starts with Kate having name of Selima. She admiring her reflected reflection in the water in the tub of goldfish, and try to catch the goldfish. And suddenly she lost her control, and she drowned in the tub of goldfish, and he died. The poem, in February 1747, Gray wrote a short memorial poem in a response to request from Wolfson, his friend. The speaker of this poem is the owner of the cat. The poems tell the story of Selima, a cat who drowns while trying to catch a goldfish. Why Selima drowns? Because she tried to catch goldfish, and she lost her control, and she drowned in the tub of goldfish. She was so distracted by her own beauty and temptation of the goldfish that she fell in drones. Her own curiosity and playful instinct led her to this unfortunate accident. Gray used the image of the goldfish to represent temptation and greed. Structure and form of the poem. The poem written in a narrative style, and the poem has a 7 stanza in with a 6 line in each. Gray used a rhyme scheme of AABCCB, and it is a traditional ode written in a mock heroic style. Literary device. The poem contains metaphors such as comparing Selima's eyes to twin stars. The poem personifies the cat, referred to as a she rather than it. The poems use a vivid imagery to describe the cat's action and the tub of goldfish. Gray describes Selima's death in a comic and exaggerate way. Gray used humor and irony to explore the theme of vanity, greed, and the fragility of life. The social and the satire and social commentary. In the last stanza of the poem is addressed to the figure of woman as an excessive, mindless, and a moral consumer. Basically satire on a woman. In we can see in the last line, nor all that glister golds that remind to woman that not everything that seems good is actually good, and they should not be deceived by superficial appearance. Moral or message in the poem. Thomas Gray used a cat and fish to teach a moral. The poem is telling us that we should be careful of what we want, and that we should not be greedy. Because it basically about vanity, greed, and remind us that excessive vanity and unchecked curiosity can lead to unexpected and even tragic consequence. We should also be aware that not everything is as it is seems. That means not everything look good is really good. We should be careful of temptation and avoid being deceived by appearance. Here my reference. Thank you. If you have any question, you can ask.
So my question is, Chaya, how does this poem relates to other works of the satire, such as Alexander Pope's The Rape of the Lock?
The both poem are written in a mock style, mock heroic style, and both poem deal with greed and vanity, and the Gray described the theme of greed and vanity, and she greed of goldfish, and Pope describe about the appearance. That's it. Any other?
So my question is, how does the speaker's perspective shape the poem's meaning and themes?
The speaker's perspective and role is a significance in the poem uh, because speaker provide us imaginary of cat and goldfish, and also China vase as mentioned in the poem, and also describe about vanity and greed, and allow she allow she allow great to explore the theme of the poem, and not become judgmental. Thank you.
Hello everyone, very good afternoon to all. I'm Akshay Nimbark, and today's my presentation topic is Ink and Irony, Alexander Pope's satirical stroke. Here is my self-introduction. This is my content. Let's discuss about background and achievement of Alexander Pope. So, brief biography. Alexander Pope was born in 1618 and went on to become one of the most celebrated poets on 18th century. Despite his small stature and weakened health, Pope made a lasting impact on a literary world with works like Essay on Man and The Dunciad. So, as the in previous presentation, Akash mentioned the deeply biography of Alexander Pope, so we can not going too deep into this. The canon of literature. Pope's works span a range of literature genre from epic poetry to satire. He was highly regarded by many of his contemporaries and still widely read and studied today. So let's discuss about the satire. So firstly, meaning of the satire. What is the satire? So satire uses humor, irony, and exaggeration to expound a criticize social flaws or injustice. It can be used a shell light of political, social, and or cultural issue. Pope's satirical style. Pope's wit was sharp and incisive, often talking aim of the foibles and vanities of his contemporaries. Using satire, he was able to challenge social norms and comment on the world around him. So let's discuss about the impact on literature. Pope's satire. Pope used a satire influenced generation of writers from Samuel Johnson to Jane Austen. His work established satire as a powerful literary tool for social commentaries. Now analyzing the one of the most famous work of Alexander Pope, The Rape of the Lock. The Rape of the Lock is published in 1712. This is the masterpiece of satirical work of Alexander Pope. So, plot and setting. The Rape of the Lock is a mock epic poem that tells the story of a young woman who has a lock of hair, her hair stolen by suitor. The poem is set in aristocratic London society. Satirical target. So how Alexander Pope uses satire in this poem. Pope uses the theft of Belinda's hair to comment on the vanity of frivolity and wealthy classes. He also satirized the convention of courtly love and power dynamics between men and women. So how Alexander Pope used the irony in this poem. So Pope employs situational and dramatical irony throughout the poem. Often the humorous effect, his ironic tone underscores the absurdity of society he is satirizing. So an essay on criticism is one of the most famous poem of Alexander Pope. Key ideas and arguments presented in this poem by Alexander Pope. An essay on criticism is seminal work of literary criticism that established Pope as one of the leading literary voice of his time. In it, he provides a clear and precise guide for how to write good poetry, emphasizing the importance of impeccable from form and inspired language. Critique of literary criticism and the art of writing of Alexander Pope. In his criticism, Pope emphasized the importance of quality and substance over style and form, rather than celebrating empty shows of wit and cleverness. Pope advocates for a clear, straightforward approach to writing that values content and meaning about all else. Reflection on Pope's satirical and witty writing style. An essay on criticism is an exemplary showcase of Pope's unique style, featuring clever turns of phrase and memorable lines that have entered him into generation of readers. Now let's discuss about the theme of Pope satire. Social commentaries. Pope's satire often took aim at the social heresies and conflict of his time. He criticized the wealthy, the powerful, and those who abuse their position of authority. Political critics. Pope was not afraid to criticize those in power, using his wit to call out corruption, politician, and social ills. His works are marked by skepticism towards authority and abuse of power, the human condition. Pope also used satire to comment on human nature and the flaws that defines us. He poked fun at pride, vanity, and selfishness, showcasing both the humors and tragedy of our common humanity. Now, the legacy of satire. Firstly, we discuss Pope's influence. Pope's use of satire had a lasting impact on literary world and beyond. His work has inspired generation of writers and commentators, including figures like Jonathan Swift and Oscar Wilde. Contemporary satire. So satire is still important part of our culture landscape, providing a way critics in comment on the world around us. From late night comedians to political cartoonists, satire continues to be powerful for social commentary. Pope also developed the satirical style in the structure. Here is the picture of contemporary satire. You can see the importance of laughter. Perhaps the most enduring legacy of satire is its ability to make us laugh by poking fun at the end and at the world and ourselves. Satire provides a much needed release from the stresses of daily life and helps us find joy in the absurdity of the the world around us. In the conclusion, Pope's satirical prowess not only set a highly watermark for the genre but also left an indelible mark on English literature. His wit and humor exemplified in masterpieces like The Rape of the Lock and not only captivated his audience in his time but also resonated through the ages, significantly influencing subsequent writers. His contribution played a pivotal role in shaping a robust satirical tradition with English literature, solidifying his position within the literary canon. Even today, Pope's enduring relevance persists as his incisive commentary on timeless societal issue continues to reverberate, per- perpetuating his profound impact on the world of literature. Here are some references. Thank you. If you have any question, feel free to ask.
So my question to you also is, how do you interpret satire and condemnation?
So satire is a kind of condemnation uh, with wit and allegory containing. In nutshell, satire and contemporary in nutshell, uh, there is not a direct statement. There are statement with allegory. As we in allegory with we can say. So satire is in some form of condemnation with allegory uh, and this interpret by only by the wise person. So that's it. If you have any.
I have a question that how much the power of truly matter in the play like Rover?
It's a different question.
Listen presentation. And then you have to ask one what is presented. Was it on the roll? What was the topic of this presentation? You don't listen anything.
Sorry.
Okay.
Can I ask, sir?
Okay, no problem. What you can ask. That was the last one. Okay, so a very quick feedback to the things. HIRAL presented on Pamela and the film Pink, its common spirit was presented. You are not supposed to cite from IMDb films when you are citing, unless you are taking review or critics observation published on that. Then you can refer. Otherwise, for the basic information of the film posters or the things which film producers have given, that should be cited rather than this resource. And there was a question by Chhaya on this rich people and this justice. That also was a good question. So poetic justice, your answer should be related to how literature tries to give poetic justice, but that is not found in real world, which we discussed in one of our discussions also, that poetic justice is in the literature, but it is not found actually in real world. And normally we are frustrated with the real world. So literature gives us satisfaction, that a kind of a hope that someday perhaps it may happen in this manner. Your slides were well prepared. The citation of this play, Google book, that also is not appropriate. When you cite a book, that is where you are reading it, or that is where it is published. But the original source, where it is, that is to be given. And then you can mention that you have read it over play, or any online Kindle version that is only for reading. HARDI's also was good on Draupadi and Belinda. And good questions were asked to see that how you compare the things. One is very satirical, one is high serious. So when you select topics for comparison, you have to be very careful in seeing that will it justify the comparison or not. In semester 4, you will have a paper on comparative studies and translation studies. There you will come to know that what can be compared, what cannot be compared. And when you compare the things, how you have to see the parallels there. So if something is very trivial and something is very highly serious, then the comparison will not be appropriate also. One is a satire, another is epic poem. Genre also is different. So in all this thing, one has to be very careful. When you switch over the genre, then also there are lots of problems in comparison. So I actually also asked well about this question, and your answer also was not justifiable. And this, you were still citing from course hero, which we told that you have to avoid citing from the study material websites. And that also was very long. Many of you made a very long presentations. We told that once the bell rings, you have to conclude. But you keep on reading the slides. So don't keep on reading the slides. Orally sum up once the time is over. DHATRI presented well on women's bill and was well done. One citation you done was about Drashti IAS website. Instead of that, you can cite from the original government source where the women's bill is published. So that can be searched. So if we are able to get the primary original source from the website, we should not go to secondary sources. If we cannot find the original, then we can go to secondary sources. Bhumi also was good on Stockholm syndrome. Hardi asked a good question about why this name is given, which should have been included in the presentation. So when you make a presentation, any concept, the initial slide should clarify the concept. That what is this meaning? From where is it coming? What is the etymology of the given word? AAKASH presented on satire. Alexander Pope. Topic was good, importance of being a satirist, but you have to justify that title also. Some of you like Akash or Rahul, even the last one, Akshay, had a good title, but the title is not justified subsequently in the presentation. So it looks fancy title. Title looks very fancy, but that should be justified properly. So like you try to take this idea from importance of being earnest. So importance of being a satirist. So how that can be justified, that you can see. And it was a bit longer one also. The other content, another thing was good. Rahul on Pope and the 18th century and modern interpretations also, but modern interpretations still were missing. In one slide you mentioned a few things, but still more we require to see that how, in what way, like Darshan presented some more points about contemporary way of looking at social media, television media, how they would react to the same thing. So more of those things can be brought in when you compare 18th century and 21st century. KAVITA on Pamela and Shamela. It is a parody or a satire on one serious work. But what exactly are the points of that satire? That should be brought in. That this is how he is exactly making the fun or he's pulling legs of the high seriousness or highly melodramatic sentimentality of Pamela. So that exact points you have to bring in. Your Google Classroom photo is still missing, Kavita's and Chhaya, that you have to update in Google Classroom also. Jagruti on Robert Burns, a Scottish poet. Scotland is much different from England. So if that difference you can bring in, that how Scotland is having a different culture than the English culture, then reading of the poets from Scotland becomes more interesting. Darshan presented well on Pamela and also brought this. There are letters in those days. What can be today? Today it can be social media or WhatsApp or many other different tools, technological or digital tools might be used by the writers to see that. Some real life examples might have been given that what is actually happening. You said this will happen, but has that happened actually? Like Me Too, in Me Too, what happened to whom? Who were the celebrities who can be compared with Mr. B? And what happened to them? Can you name 4 or 5 people who were having a very high reputation in society? But because of these things coming up, they have to face lots of insults in society. Some had cases also, legal cases. Some were also imprisoned also. Some were able to get scot-free because there were no proofs. Things happened so many years back. So there were no proofs. So people, many people were not able to get any punishment from this. There were several ministers also who had to resign from this. There were so many people in high offices. They had undergone several kinds of penalties. So that examples might have been brought. Chhaya on mock heroic style. The selection of poem was good, but you have to bring in that what way that heroic style is mocked by this poet. You need to improve your speaking also, so do more rehearsal so you can improve your speech. Last one, Akshay had a good topic, ink and irony, but again, the title was not then justified. So how you connect ink and irony, that you have to keep on repeatedly say. Irony was repeated, but ink was nowhere repeated later on in any of the slides also. Okay, fine. So wish you all the best for tomorrow's presentation. We end our session here.